May 1st, 1566, Constantinople. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Solomon the Lawgiver, the greatest sultan of the Ottoman Empire, made his last glimpse of this magnificent city. The sultan has once again raised a horse banner for the conquest of Hungary. However, the health of this aging sultan could not sustain a long-time campaign. Later that year, Suleiman died before the Ottoman victory at Sizikvar. The sultan's body was taken back to Istanbul to be buried, while his heart, liver, and some other organs were buried in Hungary. Selim II will then succeed his father to be the next sultan, and under his rule, the mighty Ottoman Empire started to decline. Upon Selim's coronation, Ottoman stood as the most powerful empire in the world. The Ottoman army was the largest and most well-equipped in Europe, and the Ottoman navy had full dominance over the eastern Mediterranean. However, this seemingly invincible empire was surrounded by powerful enemies. To the west, the Habsburg has further consolidated fragmented Europe, and the wealth they obtained from a new continent has enabled them to build up a navy to rival that of the Ottoman. To the east, the Safavid dynasty continues to contest Ottoman for controls over Mesopotamia and Azerbaijan. To the south, the Venetian Republic occupied the lucrative island of Crete and Cyprus and used it as a base to perform piracy against the Ottoman and disturbing the Mediterranean sea trade. However, the greatest trouble the Ottoman Empire faced was in Constantinople. The Ottoman nobles were split into two factions, the peace party led by the Grand Vizier Mehmed Pasha, and the war party led by the Sultan Selim II himself. Unlike his father, Selim II was generally regarded as a weak and incompetent leader, even before he acceded to the throne, and his inability to put down the Janissary revolt of 1566 only worsened his reputation. Therefore, Selim II was desperate for a decisive victory that could help him establish authority in the Ottoman court. In 1517, Selim II called for the reconquest of Cyprus, and the Fourth Venice Ottoman War broke out. The war started well for the Ottoman. The well-fortified fort of Nicosia fell into the Ottoman hands within 7 weeks, and the Venetian fleet were forced to withdraw from the eastern Mediterranean. However, the Ottoman advance was then halted by the stronghold of Famagusta. On May 15, 1571, Pope Pius V called the Holy League to join the campaign against the Ottoman, and the combined fleet of Spain, Venice, and Genoa set sail to relieve Cyprus. However, the Ottoman eventually took Famagusta by August 1st, before the arrival of the Christian fleet. The Sultan now ruled the wave. Following a relatively easy takeover of Cyprus, the 278-ship-strong Ottoman fleet raided the Venetian territory on the Balkan coast before the end of the campaign season. However, the failure of several minor sieges along the Adriatic coast forced the Ottoman to seek shelter in Lepanto for the upcoming winter. However, Grand Vizier Mehmed Pasha, disappointed by the fleet's inaction, ordered the fleet to take Cattaro immediately. There was only one problem. The fleet of the Holy League, consisting of 206 galleys and 6 gigantic galleasses, had not been idle for the past few months. After the news about the fall of Cyprus reached the fleet, the Christians changed their course to shadow the Ottoman fleet and were now blocking the access to Cattaro. On October 7, 1571, the two fleets met near Lepanto, and the naval battle that would determine the fate of Europe was about to begin. The naval engagement at Lepanto can be separated into 3 sections. In the northern section, the Venetian general Agostino Barbarigo led the 15 3-galleys Venetian fleet against the 59 galleys of the Ottoman fleet under Mehmed Sirocco. The strength of the two sides was roughly equal, and both were under command of capable naval commanders. In the center section, the 62 galleys of the Spanish fleet, under the leadership of John of Austria, faced the 93 galleys of the Ottoman fleet under Ali Pasha. Both belligerents had a small reserve fleet. Ironically, the leader of both sides had no previous experience in naval warfare and were placed in command of their fleet due to political reasons. Although the Ottoman held the numerical advantage in this section, The Christian had more firepower, which gave the Christian an advantage over the Ottomans. Moreover, the 4 Venetian galleys were placed in front of the Christian fleet, while Marcantonio Colonna led a small papal fleet of 7 galleys as a mobile force. In the southern section, the 15 Three galleys of the Genoese fleet, under the leadership of Giovanni Andrea Doria, faced off the strongest section of the Ottoman fleet. 93 galleys under the well-renowned Ochi-Hali, the best naval commander in this period. Ochi-Hali is supposed to have told his Christian galley slave, "If I win this battle, I promise you your liberty. If the day is yours, then God has given it to you." John of Austria, more iconically, warned his crew, "There is no paradise for cowards." The battle began with an exchange of fire between the 4 Venetian galleys stationed in front of the Christian fleet and the entire Ottoman fleet. Venetian galleys sunk many of the Ottoman galleys with superior firepower, while the Ottoman cannons remained ineffective due to their short range. After realizing that the Ottoman fleet had no effective method against the galleys, Ali Pasha ordered the fleet to bypass the galleys to engage the main body of the Christian fleet. The galleys were not able to respond to this maneuver and remained ineffectual for the rest of the battle. At noon, the first conflict broke as Sirocco engaged Barbarigo in the north. Barbarigo attempted to stay as close to the shore to prevent numerically superior Ottoman fleet from surrounding him. However, Sirocco managed to outmaneuver Venetian and insert galleys into the Venetian line to force the Venetian into close combat. Initially, the numerically inferior Venetian fleet was struggling against the Ottoman in the close-quarter combat. However, as the Venetian soldiers were joined by the freed Christian slave in the Turkish ship, the balance of power shifted. For hours, the fighting in the north remained indecisive, and both Sirocco and Barbarigo were killed during this bloody melee. In the end, the Venetian prevailed after taking heavy casualties. Meanwhile, Ali Pasha ordered an attack on the middle section of the Christian fleet. The Ottoman flagship, Sultana, touched directly with the Spanish flagship, La Real. The surrounding galleys from both sides began to board the flagship to unload its soldiers. When the Christian flagship, La Real, was nearly taken by the Ottoman janissaries, the papal fleet arrived just in time to tilt the balance of power. The entire crew of the Sultana, including Ali Pasha, was then killed in this engagement. The loss of Sultana disheartened the Ottoman janissaries, and this engagement in the center resulted in a decisive Christian victory. However, the situation of the Genoese fleet was different. Genoese commander Doria was no match for the experienced Ochi-Hali, and his fleet was soon surrounded by Ottoman galleys. Unfortunately, the victory in the southern section was too late for the middle and northern contingent of the fleet. Ochi-Hali was then left alone to face a victorious Christian fleet. Despite Ochi-Hali's skills and talents, he was unable to save the shattered Ottoman fleet. When the battle was over, Ochi-Hali only saved a fragment of the once mighty armada of 278 galleys. When the news of victory reached Europe, they were shocked and elated. The scale of the victory gave hope to the European leaders that they might finally stop the Ottoman conquest of Europe. Although the Fourth Venetian-Ottoman War still ended with Ottoman occupying Cyprus, the Christians now hold the upper hand in the conflict. To the Ottomans, the destruction of Ottoman Armada marked the end of their naval superiority and halted Selim II's plan to further consolidate his power. The reputation of the Sultan fell to an all-time low, and the power of the Sultan was further limited. To Europe, the trade route from Italy to the Levant was cut off, which severely damaged the wealth of Venice and all the Italian city-states. Europeans would now rely solely on the Atlantic trade route, which gave rise to new powers such as Spain, England, and France, who established overseas colonies in the New World. Although this battle has been immortalized into poetry and history, but the participants of this battle did not always receive their proper reward from the historians. John of Austria served as the governor of the Low Countries until illness took him in 1578. 10 years later, many of his veterans would die in a failed military campaign against England in 1588. Marcantonio Colonna returned to the Papal State and lived the rest of his life in obscurity. Okhali was the last remaining leader of the war, who led the reconstruction of the Ottoman Armada. On June 27, 1587, Okhali died peacefully in Constantinople. At that point, the Ottoman fleet still had not recovered from the defeat at Lepanto, and never would.